Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bukam Pella from NetCB, and I'm a sales consultant here at NetCB. Joining us today, I have Quibus Burgers, who is our managing director, Justin Foxcroft, who's our sales director, and our technical specialist, Mr. Hendrik de Bruin. As well, coming all the way from Austria, right in the heart of Europe, is Javier Burena. And alongside him is Stephen Cohen, all the way from Canada, Montreal. I just want to thank everyone for coming out today, taking the times out of your busy schedules to join us this Thursday afternoon. I know some of you in the world are not on the same timeline as we are. Some of you are, in the morning, such as Stephen. Some of us are on the afternoon here in South Africa. Thank you guys very much for your time. And yeah, take it away, Javier.
Thank you, Pagamoso. Hello, everyone. My name is Javier Burena, Senior Account Executive for EMEA and LATAM for Micro Focus International. Thank you very much for coming. We are going to present during this session our value proposition for unified archiving based on our solution Retain. I will start now. And as commented, this is a recorded webinar. So this will be available to everyone that is on this session and anyone that will just come later or miss this session by any reason. I'm also here with Stephen Cohen, our senior system engineer, that will provide a demonstration of the tool. So I'll start now. So at the moment, 75% of global companies will encounter legal and regulatory action requiring a systemic approach to legal discovery by the end of the year. This has been defined by Gartner in one of the most recent polls. As well as that, 46% of organizations have had an eDiscovery request in the past 12 months. This has been already assessed by the Enterprise Strategy Group, which is a very respected firm focusing on defining legal trends across the regions. I had an experience of one of our key reference customers in Bahrain. He's the CIO, and he commented to me that he had about 3 months ago, he had a problem. Actually, he had to fire one of his procurement people because he was having kind of under the table deal. Has been this CIO had an issue with this specific person from procurement that was having issues with the with a procurement person that was doing this under the table dealings with one supplier. So when he found this out, he had to fire him. But before this procurement person left, he erased the entire database, the entire mailbox. And it was not possible to find the data at that moment. Now he, okay, 1 second. And this was carried out. This procurement person that left, sued the company because of an unjustified dismissal. When this happened, a court lady was sent to talk with my contact there, and he was able with Retain to restore all this information from this person. And the court lady said, in a very emphatic way, she was really amazed how the information was so quickly being able to be found and restored. So the all the information that the court needed was completed, and the case was dismissed by the court. So just to give you a quick example. Now, 15 to 60% redundant and outdated, trivial, and risky data, they generally represent, because they are not so well documented, between 15 and 60% of what the organization have at the moment. Now, the percentage of organizations archiving various content types, most of this content is done by email, instant messaging, Facebook, text, and Twitter, especially on emails. That's why the reason of many companies getting these concerns about, how to locate the data in case if needed. So Michael Osterman, which is a top expert and a guru on archiving and document protection, and data protection. So he said in 2008, it's not a matter of if it's going to be needed, all these eDiscovery requirements when it comes to archive data, how easy that is going to be needed by either the regulator or a court order or something like that. So it's not a matter of if, but when will it happen? So eDiscovery email litigation is inevitably coming to your organization. That's what he stated very emphatically back then. So the mobile archiving is one of the main liabilities for every company. As you know, many people are just looking to use their own devices for personal use as well as for company work. So that means that there is going to be a blurred line between these two universes of the employee. So the mobile communications then has to be viewed the same as email or social media for archiving purposes. The mobile communication policy has to be defined around how these communications will be compliant for the company and so on. So these are the more or less one of the topics, and you need to have this oversight carried out. Now, also with a mobile, out of just handling data that could be for the company or for personal use, can also access corporate social media accounts. So that's the need for when you try to look for data that could be compromising for the company, you need to set up alerts for keywords, questions, personal identifiable info that will allow you to know, when one of your employees have used social media, for example, to post messages that are not falling on the compliance guidelines that they were already committed to follow. So this prevents obviously harassment, improper content, and this also has to go with a social media policy. Now, when it comes to employee protection, so as commented before, mobile blurs the line between work and personal life. As I just said, it is commonplace for an employee to use the same device for both personal and corporate use. This mixed usage actually can present challenges as organizations become overwhelmed by data. It helps to reinforce the employees should not share sensitive or confidential information and participate in inappropriate, harmful, or harassing communications. By putting policies in place and by using solutions like Retain Unified Archiving that fully archive mobile communications, your organization can be protected. Beyond what an email archive could do, this goes beyond that as well. You will be able to keep a record of what is happening day to day. You can prove to the courts or auditors or the regulator that your employees are compliant with communication policies. Look, your employees are texting. That is something that you cannot avoid that happening. And the courts are increasingly asking for those texts to be produced, as I commented with this case in Bahrain. And with an archive, you can act appropriately and show that your employees acted appropriately if the need arises for this kind of validation by the auditors and the regulators. This gives the organization protection in case of litigation or if a question arises about what is being communicated in your organization. So litigation understood as being able to lock a portion of data that is not going to be being able to be edited, erased, or mishandled in any way. So that litigation lock, and my colleague Steven is going to provide some insights on what this means. So employees then can rest assured that they follow policy, that as they follow the policy, a record assists documenting their correct actions. This protects employees and obviously the organization. So policies and technology, the policies should outline the appropriate use. The policies must be clear, training is important, and certification of that training is important within that training, and technology must validate this policy. So in summary, just to understand, what the real costs are, because as I commented to my colleagues, you cannot quantify security, but you can quantify risk. And unified archiving is no longer a cost of doing business, but a cost savings. And now you might be saying to yourself, what is all this unified archiving, all this data going to cost me? That's the mindset that that we hope to change during this session. The business leaders should be saying to themselves, archiving all this data actually provides my business with a cost savings in addition to protection against risk, which, as I commented, is very well quantifiable. Archiving reduces costs in many ways. First, it reduces the total cost of ownership of your email platform by extending the life of your existing hardware investment. So you're able now, with a unified archiving solution, to be able to migrate, for example, from one platform of emails to another platform of emails with no concerns or no kind of any sort of liability of possibility of that data getting lost, because it's being auditably and in a traceable way, fully archived. Your email server is more reliable and efficient because this information is very smartly stored. So you will save space, you will save processing power, and so on. The server load and storage costs are reduced because of this. So technology on top of this secures that the system is going to be lighter when it comes to processing and smaller when it comes to storage. Because the end users can have access to all archived data, it also reduces the help desk calls to restore emails, help kind of support tickets that are no longer needed because they are able to access this data from anywhere. Archived messages are easily and cheaply retrievable because of eDiscovery and all this power behind Retain Unified Archiving. The information is being able to be retrieved very quickly, as I commented from this person in Bahrain when he was just faced by the court lady. Reduces legal fees and eDiscovery costs in both time and human resources. So it was the CIO and the court person, not the external attorney or anyone from legal talking with the court, the court agent. It was just the CIO, my contact, being able just to provide all the information that is needed, and obviously no legal costs on that. So now, this is how we go to present our value proposition, Retain Unified Archiving. As commented, and then following this and one more slide, my colleague Steven is going to present a demonstration on this. Retain flexible compliance and unified archiving. Just to centralize what we all have seen is all the communication compliance on the left for all emails or mobile platforms, all collaboration tools, cloud, on-prem, blogs and web content, social media, financial and mobile applications. Everything goes into one unified archive that is around one specific user, one individual, with everything that person, obviously is not personal information, it's information related to the company and information that is important for the company. And the end user access that there will be. Obviously, there's going to be an administrator, and the people will be able to search and export. Do the eDiscovery that I mentioned is something that Michael Osterman defined as something that every company will face at some point. They need to have this available. Analytics, reporting, security, all done with all the best encrypted ways, and Stephen will be able to elaborate on this. And following to this, so this is kind of a simple, very kind of a business level view on the architecture. You have everything connected to Retain. Retain is connected to everywhere. That's the message. So that ends my presentation, and I leave the moment just for Stephen to be able to 1 second. Okay. So now is your time, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Javier. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you very much. Great information. Let me press the buttons to share my screen. And full disclosure, we are kind of working through a small technical difficulty, which is going to force us to conduct some magic tricks with screen shares and all that. But but we hope that everything will go well. I'm just going to continue the slide deck that Javier has been showing. There's quite a few slides left. However, I'm going to just hit on the highlights here, a couple of slides, and then we're going to go into a demonstration if all goes well. All right, so let's just advance the deck here. If I can, oh, just one moment. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so when it comes to talking about the Retain Unified Archive with customers and prospects, I always talk about three key themes: performance, flexibility, and security. These are the three overarching goals that our development teams and product management teams hit on when designing and implementing the product and systems. This particular slide here talks a little bit about the flexibility around Retain, how our customers use it, the different ways that it can be deployed. As you can see here, it can be deployed on premises or in the cloud. So we provide options around both. Our cloud deployments of Retain is very flexible as well, because we leverage the Amazon AWS services to host Retain in our cloud services. That means that you can have the Retain system and the data sit and be stored in any location where Amazon has an AWS data center. And there are quite a few locations around the world. There are many locations around EMEA. I believe South Africa has one. I think we went over that. And there are a few more around the continent. So that it provides us with flexibility around storing data, which is very important. There are many jurisdictions that have government regulations that require company or organization to store their data on in the nation's territory. Of course, so worry-free deployment. Whether if you go with our cloud deployment, you don't have to worry at all, because we handle the deployment for you. Very, very easy to handle when we've been doing this for about 20 years now. On the other hand, our on-premises deployment, super easy. We have a documentation, and the installation part of that is only about 20 pages. And throughout my personal 15 years with dealing with this product, I've never really seen, the average is about, after you've read it, and I must say you must read the documentation's installation guide, about 2 hours to install. Very simple to install. The slide, the previous slide that Javier showed, where you had that one Retain server, that's pretty much the reality. You can put all the services on just one server, depending on the size of your deployment, or if the deployment gets, if you have to do hundreds or thousands of mailboxes of archiving, you might want to split it up into different components. Whatever the case may be, a very simple system to set up. And of course, we have great partners and professional services that can assist with that as well. And finally, I want to touch on platform migration. As you'll see when I go through the demonstration, Retain can support many different platforms. It can support Exchange, Office 365, Google. It can support GroupWise. We do have a lot of customers who have migrated between some of these email platforms and have used Retain to make that migration project very simple. When it comes to migrating email across platforms, and I've done this, I actually worked with some customers to do this as a professional service. You want to go with the KISS mentality. Keep it simple, stupid. So, which means that you want to have the project go as quickly as possible, and you want to migrate the least amount of data. Having an archive like Retain, which can connect to a legacy email system and then connect to a newer email system, you are able to have the data already in Retain, which means that you don't need to migrate everything. Email users typically only need to use the email or get at the email that's 3 months old or newer. And they rarely ever need to touch email that's older than 3 months. So you can migrate that 90 days of email, keep the rest inside of an archive like Retain, and have a successful migration project. Finally, this slide here, eDiscovery management. These are the features that I'm going to focus on when we go through the demonstration that we're going to start in just a few moments here. So please keep all these things here in mind. The audit trail is very important. We're going to talk about that. End user management. Very important because, as I mentioned, we want to keep your data secure, configurable permissions, and that means we want to make sure that we can configure the right amount of access that users have into the archive. You don't want to give a user too much access in the archive. You want to be able to very granularly specify what mailboxes, what archives, what they can do inside the archive. For example, this person can tag emails, flag them to certain cases, and another employee can export those items. So very important. We're going to go through this in the demonstration. So with that said, I would like to attempt to do a demonstration. So I think that what we're going to do is somebody's going to share their screen, and I am going to control that. Is that what we're going to do? If someone can just come online and help me out a bit. Do I need to
That's
stop
correct. If you, I'm going to share my screen now quickly. There we go.
So you should see me in there twice. I'm Stephen 2. If you can give the screen share.
Do you get the screen share?
Okay, so
Do you see my screen at the moment?
yeah, I do. Yes.
Okay, now you can just request remote control.
Okay, looking for that.
It's on the options on the top.
Oh, yep. Sorry, I don't use Zoom very often. Okay, that should go through.
Okay, it's yours.
Okay, great. All right. So again, I've never used this retained server before. Hopefully, with some years of experience, I could manage my way through here. You logged in with a user that doesn't have anything private as far as information is concerned?
You can do whatever you want. I will stop you if I think you're going to access something that may be confidential.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're in for a very interesting show for the next few minutes. So please enjoy the ride. All right. So we are logged into the Retain Unified archive right now. So as you see, we're using a web browser to do that. The web browser is typically the number one way that users interact with Retain. However, we do have some other tools that come with Retain that users can use to access the data. Number one would be an Outlook plugin. This plugin can be installed in the Outlook thick client on end user PCs, and that plugin actually has quite a lot of functionality inside, but it gives a few ways to get at the data inside of Retain. One of these ways allows it to cache some of the data in Outlook. So even if the user is in an airplane or outside of network, they can have access to some of their archive data. Other tools allow them in there to do searches that you're going to see me. Oh, thank you very much for pulling that up. Other tools allow them to pull up a search interface from Outlook without having to log into the web browser. Thank you. So what you're looking at right here is email that come out of the Retain archive that is sitting inside of Outlook. So the email looks exactly like it would inside of Outlook. It's there. You can actually hit the reply button or the forward button. It's no problem at all. You can actually drag and drop this email around the different folders. The only thing you can't do in here is delete anything. If you try to delete it, it should tell you that you don't have permissions to do that because our archive item should be read only. Okay. All right, so moving back here, and then we also have a tool called the Publisher. I don't know if you have that on your desktop, but we don't need to go into it. Just quickly tell you that the Publisher allows you to export data, convert it to PST format, convert it to PDF format, do redaction, all that kind of stuff from a tool that is installed on a Windows client. So very useful for the final stages of eDiscovery when you need to exfiltrate or export the data from Retain, maybe hand it off to an external legal counsel. And if you're dealing with external legal firms, they tend to want to receive the data in PST format because they will then import it into their own eDiscovery tools that they own in the firm. And we give you the easy options to do that with Retain, all included. Publishers right there. You can download it as you see from the admin interface. Great. Thank you so much for your help. I think so far so good. Fingers will remain crossed so we don't jinx anything yet. Okay. So as you see here on my admin interface, I do have quite a lot of options on the left side. So we're not going to go through everything because you'll quickly fall asleep, and I don't want that to happen. So we're going to hit on only a few things. So from this admin interface, number one, I think most important is user and group management, and this is one of the keys and the points that I hit on the PowerPoint. So number one here, I'm opening up the admin user. We can X this here.
Yeah, just close that.
And as we see here, these are the access control level rights. These are the administrator rights at the top and then end user level rights at the bottom. As you can see, the point here, I'm not going to go through all this because this is not a training. The point here is to see that there are quite a lot of different access controls that you can assign. So you can get very granular and very specific onto what end users can do. Right now, we're looking at the administrator user. It's typical that the administrator user can have everything available as far as rights are concerned, but it doesn't have to be that way. Search all mailboxes at the top. Very important. If you wanted to give a blanket access to every archive, very simple to do, just enable that. Other things that are very important here, access to the audit log. So as I mentioned, the audit log is very important to retain, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute or two. So every action that happens inside a retain is audited in a separately stored audit log, and only users that have this access over here can view that audit log detail. Okay, so if I change a configuration option here, if I open up and view an email, if I download an attachment, everything is stored in the audit log, and you need access to that audit log obviously to get at that data. It's stored in an external database. End user, and then we see create litigation holds, etc. End user level rights, these deal mainly with using the searching and browsing and early case assessment user interface. So this deals with exporting messages. This deals with viewing attachments. This also deals with deleting messages. So depending on what jurisdiction you are in the world, some jurisdictions, I know our European friends have a very famous law there called GDPR, which makes it so that personal data privacy is very important. So those, in some jurisdictions, I believe Germany, for example, is one, corporate email actually belongs to the end user that sends the email. So it is personal for them, even though it's sent from a corporate email address. So users in that jurisdiction need to be able to delete data or request for that data to be deleted. So we need to provision features in retain that allow you to remove those items from retain. And that is right there. Okay, let's scroll back up here. And one last thing to show you here is mailbox access. So as I showed you earlier, we have the search all mailboxes access control level here, which is one checkbox and you got access to every single archive, but this is not something that is normally handed out to any user. What you will normally want to do is open up the mailbox tab here. And if there is a need to access certain mailboxes, you can easily find those mailboxes in our search interface here. And then you can give access to those mailboxes to this particular user. So if there's, for example, 3 mailboxes that have an open records request against them, or there's an investigation, you can add these 3 mailboxes to this user or group of users, and then they will be able to access the data inside of these 3 mailboxes or archives, and nothing more than that. So very important to limit the access. You always want to adhere to security principles of least privilege, so never give anyone more access than they're required to do their job properly. And then we can continue along our way. I'm not going to hit save on any of this, so don't worry.
Yeah, please.
Now, the audit log, let's quickly take a look at that. I don't know what's in here, so with your permission, I can hit search.
Yeah.
Okay. And hopefully we'll get some results here. So as you see here, there's quite a lot of items that are audited in the log. So in fact, I don't even know what all of these mean. For example, there is an audited, the audited. audited. This one right here. This one's kind of a mystery to me. It's always remained a mystery, and I've never asked anyone what it actually does. So please don't tell me if you know the answer. This one's a mystery to me. But of course, all the usual suspects are in here. Even when items are archived, they will be you will be able to see that they've been archived. When a user logs in, of course, when data has been deleted or removed, when data has been exported, forwarded, placed on litigation hold, when someone switches a mailbox. As you can see here, obviously, when something is viewed, that is obviously very important. And as you see here, we have some results here in the audit log. Search queries are also audited, so you can see the contents of search queries inside the audit log, so you can see what's been searched, and you can also see how many hits have been involved in that search. So that's kind of good information. We have customers that are required by law to search mailboxes for certain keywords every day or every week. So the audit log allows you to prove to government entities or auditing entities that you have conducted those searches and you've reviewed the results as well. Okay, so very important feature that I always want to make sure we hit. And then finally here, just quickly look at module configuration. I like to show this this page here because Retain is a unified archive. We talk a lot about that fact when we talk about Retain. A lot of value in Retain is in the fact that you can connect it to so many different types of sources. As you see here, these are all the modules that we support. Group-wise, mobile module here, that means that you can archive text messages off of Android phones. We have support for iOS devices as well. Google Apps, we have partners such as BlackBerry, such as Bloomberg, such as Labs, such as AT&T, that's obviously in the United States, that allow us to get at data of their customers. Our social media governance module is very important to us and our customers. That allows you to gather information, and Javier showed the slide where he had about like a couple dozen different icons of social media sites there: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, the most famous ones, examples, most popular. But we can also archive Microsoft Teams. We can also archive SharePoint. We can also archive WhatsApp, WeChat. All of that is part of our social media governance module, and it allows you to get data out of those sources and into Retain for eDiscovery. And it also allows you to do some other really cool things called, which is why we call it governance. So for example, on Twitter, it can actually remove items from Twitter or remove items from Facebook that match keywords. So you can actually do some moderation, some governance there. We won't go into too many details there, but if you're interested to learn more, please let us know. Okay, time to look into the archive. So obviously, I talked a lot about admin. I talked a lot about audit log, very important features, but I don't think it's going to keep you up at night. It's not gonna. You're not going to dream about audit logs. Well, maybe you will, and you're that type of person. Otherwise, we're going to talk a lot about the searching and browsing interfaces, because those are the ones that I hope that you're going to dream about at night. This particular one is the browse mode interface. As we see here, we're logged into the system notifications mailbox. So very good. I'm sure you won't have any personal information or private information in here. This is the mailbox that always contains the most interesting items in an organization. It seems like as we look here, everything seems to be running. Oh, maybe not so well.
Okay. I generated some warnings this morning, so.
Okay, great. Okay, so they're not real warnings. Otherwise, we might have to cancel the rest of the webinar and take a look at this system here. This is the browse mode. So very simply, it's a mode that shows end user mailboxes, shows all their folders.
You can expand that, yeah.
Yep, my mouse just has problems sometimes, and it double clicks really fast. I'll click on an item here. We can find out why it's not running. Unfortunately, this system decided to really send very descriptive errors messages to us. So thankfully, we know it's not running, but we don't know why. So it's up to us to determine why. Always the most fun and interesting job of an IT person. Attachments can be opened or saved. The MIME.822 is an interesting attachment. Some jurisdictions require that this is attached to internet email. The MIME.822 file is pretty much a standard file that contains a duplication of everything that you're seeing in the body and in the attachments. But some jurisdictions require that you're able to send that. It helps with the courts and court cases because it's a piece of data that is expected. So we allow you to store that. But the important thing is, even if it contains duplication, everything inside of Retain is deduplicated by a MD5 hashing algorithm that we conduct on everything that's stored, so that once Retain stores an item, it knows that it doesn't need to store a duplication of that item again, because it does a very strict check of that, and then it will just make a pointer in the database to the items that require that original attachment or piece of body in there. So if you were to archive an entire Exchange server, you would notice that you're probably going to see about a 30 to 40% reduction in storage between an Exchange mailbox server and its generated archive in Retain. And because things, of course, compressed as well. The Properties tab contains quite a lot of information around metadata associated with the emails. So we log into the end user mailboxes directly here, as you can see. Otherwise, how would we know what folders they've put the emails in? How would we know if this item has been read or not? How would we know if the user marked it as confidential? Because we log in directly to the mailboxes. So some archiving systems do things at the gateway. If you're doing things at the gateway, or if you're just going off of a journaling stream in Exchange, you miss out on all this metadata that is very interesting. It's very interesting if there's a legal issue to know if the end users read the email or not. It's very interesting information. So we're able to determine that directly inside of Retain. We also can archive journal feeds from Exchange if that's something that's important to you. Retain is a flexible tool, as I mentioned, so we can do that as well. Lots of different options available inside of Retain. At the bottom you see an audit trail. So every email has its own audit trail. It's kind of a chain of custody type of feature. So it shows you when the item was archived. It shows you who's viewed it. It shows you when it's been exported, etc. So only users that have access to the audit trail will be able to see that. Obviously, an end user who's just a typical person who owns this email box, for example, they won't see who's been looking at their email like that. It's hidden from view. Okay, so.
Well, unless you allow them to see that.
Unless you allow them to see that, yes. It's all controlled via those access control levels that I showed you right at the beginning. It's not typical that they do, though. All right, so that's the browse mode. The search mode interfaces are really what I love demoing. Because I think they're so amazing, and hopefully all will go well, and we'll see how amazing they are together right here in our partner Retain server. Very good. All right, we have two search modes. This one is called quick search mode, or easy search mode, or just search mode, and then we have advanced. I prefer using this particular one, and I'm sure you're going to see why in a few moments. But sometimes auditors or somebody who gets an open records request, they have a very great idea of what they need and very specific criteria. They might go into advanced search interface. So we'll find out the differences together right now. So inside of easy mode interface, we have a giant text box at the top here. And this is where I need to be very careful not to put in a keyword that brings up anything private. That belongs to a customer or a particular deal.
Hendrik, our security officer, what keyword do you think will be safe to use?
I was going to do running and maybe get some of those system notifications back, but if you want to go ahead and type something in so I'm actually not responsible for the outcome, please.
I'm busy chewing on a chocolate, so it's also not the best idea to ask me.
Okay, well, so how about we just go ahead and, we're all typing at the same time. Oh, you're going to write chocolate.
I decided to use chocolate.
Okay, chocolate. That's a great word. I appreciate that. So as he's typing in that keyword, all right, so great. Good. So as he's typing in that keyword, we notice a few things. Number one, that our partner and friends here love chocolate and whiskey, which is a great thing. I'm sure that once this webinar is finished, that's the first thing that they're going to go do. Or maybe they might take care of that problem with the server, but I'll ask them and we'll get back to you what they do. Second thing we notice is a few things here. This is what you're looking at here. These are called search term suggestions. So Google has been doing this for quite some time, so we're all very familiar with this as an end user. Based upon the contents of the archive and the contents of the search box that you put in, the system will come back and suggest certain items. Maybe you're looking for this. Hey, maybe you're looking for that item there. And second, behind this box here, we see instantaneous search results. So you notice as he was typing in that keyword, the mouse never went over to this giant search button here. No one ever clicked on that. As you're typing in that word chocolate, the Solr indexing system on the back end, which is the system that we use for indexing, automatically started to process. The result is you get your search results always within 10 seconds or less. Many times you're going to find that you're waiting less than 2 seconds for search results. We see that we have 4,253 search results here. That count is right there. And we have about 171 pages of results here. So what this has done is it actually takes that keyword and it searches across every piece of metadata, every criteria. Maybe that shows up in the subject line. Maybe that shows up in the to or the from address. Maybe it shows up in the body, in an attachment. Doesn't matter. It's going to find everything and it's going to put it all into this result set and it's going to order it for you by relevance. So the most relevant results will come up towards the top. The least relevant results will be towards the bottom pages. However, as you see here, you can sort these columns on your own if you wanted to sort by date range, for instance. So as we see here, the keyword's also highlighted. So it's found that keyword in the email address, and I love this email address, chocolate shoebox.
Yeah, you can open it as well. So
it's a great one. It's a great one. Mango chocolate shoebox. Now my mind is going off, and we'll have to come back here. But if the as we see here, if the keyword is stored anywhere inside of the message body, it would be highlighted as well. And here it's not. So as you see here, more relevant results tend to do with, if it's in the email address or if the keyword's in the subject, those tend to be more relevant than things that have the keyword inside of a message body or inside of any attachment here. Now, so I call this the fire hose. It returns everything. Very general search. However, if you want to narrow down your search, you have all these options on the left side of the screen here. You see? These are filters. These allow me to do a search within the search result. So for example, if I know that I'm actually looking for only items that contain the keyword in the subject line, I can get rid of all of these extra ones. I'm going to click on subject line here, and there's only 150 out of 4,256. Let me click on that, and boom. Now we're only seeing results that have that keyword in the subject line. And it filtered out about 4,000 items, and it took less than 2 seconds to do that. Your users, your auditors, they're all going to love using the system because they're not going to be wasting their time. There's never going to be any beach balls or hourglasses floating around. There's never going to be anything that says my web browser is not responding because it's doing this search that's returning 100,000 results, and then users are going to start clicking and closing and all kinds of terrible things to systems. Never going to do that. The Solr indexing system that we use and retain is extremely fast, extremely performant, and extremely scalable. This system, I don't know how much is in here, but let's say it only has 1 million items in here. We can scale out to the billions of items with Solr easily.
we've got email since 2007.
Wow, since 2007. So
a couple
there's
of million emails in here.
Yeah. So you won't. I use this system to find my emails because it's so fast that I received last week because it's so much better than Outlook to find something. Okay. You can also filter by item type. If I just want to see emails, maybe I want to see appointments. If I only want to see social posts, I don't know if you have anything. No, it's a 0, so you don't have anything. But you can filter based. You can continue to filter based on that. based on item source, only sent items. I like to search for sent items myself all the time. So I'll click on sent here, and then boom, we're down to 20 results. So, oh, this one's nice. A blast from the past. Okay. If anyone remembers our GuavaCon conference of
Oh, yes.
olden days. Now, what was I going to say? Right. So we went from 4,200 emails to 20 emails with 2 mouse clicks, okay, and less than 5 seconds of actual waiting around. Amazing. I love this. I've done this for 15 years now, and I can't get enough of it. I just love. It's sad to say I like looking for my emails. Okay, now moving on. What can I do with all these emails besides spending my time reading them? Well, depending on the access controls you have into the system, you can place things on litigation hold, which means that you can never remove those items no matter what until the legal hold has been removed first. You can mark things as confidential, which means that only users that have access to confidential items will be able to see those messages. You can tag items. Tagging is a very useful feature for workflow. So you can have one user tag items, and these are customizable tags. There could be a tag for case ABC or flagged, whatever you want to do. And another user can then bring up every item from those tags. And if you notice, we actually have a tags filter towards the bottom here. And then, place all those things on legal hold or export all those items, etc. There's the scary big X delete button. You can forward items out of here to email addresses. Boom. You can export directly to PDF right from here. And if I click on that, maybe I should select an item first. Whoops, I talked too much. And one of the security features of Retain is that it will log you out automatically due to inactivity. And you won't believe how many times this happens to me because of my love for talking about it. All right. But if this ever happens to you, the good news is that you can go ahead here and if someone can type in chocolate, it's actually very early in the morning for me, so I don't want to type in anything. Even if you do get logged out, look how fast my search results show up once again. There's always good news to that. There's always lemonade that we can make from lemons. So subject, we also filtered on sent, and then we're right back to where we were. Really, that was less than how many seconds there. Okay, so we wanted to select something and then click export here, and then you can password protect this. If you wanted to encrypt your PDF as well, we won't show any of your passwords in your Chrome. We'll get rid of that. And coming in our next version, okay, it's always nice to be able to talk about a roadmap feature that is coming very soon. You're actually going to be able to export to PST file from here as well. So that's been a long requested feature that we wanted to export PST directly from the web interface without using the publisher. And that's going to be available in our next version. So that is going to be great.
If I can just maybe add here, all these options that you see at the top can also be restricted.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is why I show at the beginning, always the first thing I show with Retain is those access control level rights. So remember, I talked a lot about that delete functionality on why we have the ability to do that inside of Retain. So normally users don't have that access control to allow them to delete. So they would not see this button. It would just simply not be there. The default group, if I'll just quickly show you, oops, this, let me, I'm losing my tabs here. I'm clicking back.
Okay, there we go.
All right, because the Zoom interface is actually in my way. We'll just click on admin here. And if I click on my user access controls real quick here and go to groups, just to really show you the default group, and this is the group that everyone is a member of by default. This is the default rights. Except in your case, you've let people restore items, but when you install Retain, the default is only viewing and forwarding and printing. But which is the case of most customers, you might want your users to be able to restore their items back to their mailbox, their own mailbox. As you see here, we can actually restore to, there's an admin right that lets you to restore to any mailbox, which is actually kind of cool. But that is, they are available to do that. That's the default. Okay, let's take a look at advanced search really fast, and then we'll open up to questions because I know we're coming up to the bottom of the hour here.
Yeah, there's quite a number of questions.
Okay, great. So the advanced search, very easy to talk about. Instead of one giant text box and you type in one keyword or a few keywords and you get all those results, you can open up your query building tool. You can craft your query based on a wide variety of criteria here. Field contains phrase, field contains words, starts with, doesn't contain, ends with. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here or anything. You all know where this is going. And or Boolean searching, very important. You can also do nested queries. So this and that, or maybe a whole other set of keywords, you know, maybe it's on legal hold. And maybe there's a date range and you have a very easy to use date picker tool. Trust me, we talk a lot about these features too, because not every, if you go to Office 365 and you try to do an advanced query from Office 365, you're not going to get an interface which is as user-friendly and as slick as this one. They don't have a date picker like this. You think that that's, oh, well, we'll survive without it. Trust me, these are features that people ask for. We don't put them in just because we think about them. And you can go on and on and on and on. There's no limitation to this. You can put in a dozen. You can put in 12 dozen. The Solar indexing system has no limitation. The good news is you can save this query. I don't know if you have any queries that we can load up here, but
I don't think in my profile, I don't have in my profile at the moment.
All good, but you can save and you can load and you can share. Very easy to use and very flexible and very powerful interfaces. And of course, that's so the difference between easy mode and advanced mode is advanced. You can create your query based on all those criteria and get 4 results right away. And in easy mode, you're probably going to start off with quite a lot of pages and then you can filter down. But it doesn't matter. Any which interface you use, you're always going to get your results super fast. So don't worry that you got 4,000 pages of results. It's only going to show up in about 10 seconds or less. Okay. Yeah, so let's go to some questions if we have, because we have only a few minutes left. Thank you very much.
Okay, Steven, I have answered some of these questions already. There is one about encryption for WhatsApp from Thijs de Beer. So how you get past that?
Oh, yes, that question. You know, I asked the product managers this question for at least a year or two. They would never tell me the answer because it seems to be a very closely held secret. However, I've seen it work, and I don't know if I can tell you this or not, but it uses the, okay, well, I finally got the answer. So it uses the web interface, the web tool to get at the data. So if you use WhatsApp, you also know that you can log into a web page, a website for WhatsApp and type in messages. So obviously we need to have the credentials for the end user in there so we can log in. We simply log in automatically to the website and we read all the messages. It's that simple. So WhatsApp does have end-to-end encryption, but with the credentials of the end user, we can get around that.
Okay.
Okay, then just a couple of more questions that have been asked that Javier answered in private. Yeah, the first question is, can Retain also do WhatsApp? Our company users increasingly using WhatsApp because of group users, etc. And I believe that question has been answered. Yeah, the next one was, what kind of hardware and storage, for example, 15,000 users and archiving must be very, very high capacity. We're only using emails and already that is a beast on its own. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure if I understand that question, but
Yeah, I do. I do. They have a very large system. So the great news about Retain is it's extremely simple to set up and it's extremely performant. I mentioned the solar indexing system can index up to 1 billion items just with the default indexer that we install into Retain. However, if you need to increase that, the solar indexing system is scalable, and you can install external indexing systems too, and external indexing servers. You can have an external database server as well. So you can have the archive server. You can split up to indexing servers. You can split up to extra database servers externally. So you can scale and scale and scale, and there's never any end to it. However, you should know that the default, just one single server can archive many thousands of users. But in your case, and our documentation really explains this very well. In your case, you would probably have about 2 or 3 servers, probably about 3 to split the load up. And those servers you're looking at, nothing. The biggest server might have 64 gigabytes of RAM to 128 gigabytes of RAM with an 8-core CPU on it. You won't need a supercomputer to do this. It's something that's going to be very easily manageable by you. And as far as storage is concerned, you're not going to have to break the bank. I mentioned everything's compressed, everything's deduplicated. We can utilize any storage that you have already.
Yeah, Stephen, if I maybe can add to that, normally when a client goes above 3,000 users, then we tend to separate the database and the indexing servers from the worker servers, because that improves the scalability and the performance significantly.
Absolutely, and our great partners, and this is why we love having great partners such as yourselves to be able to take the word directly to the customer and go right in there and do the implementation based on years and years of experience.
all right. And the second question that's lined up is, I see that Retain is also available for email. How different is it from Mimecast?
For email, well, as far as costs are concerned, I to be honest, I never looked at the price sheet myself. I stay away from pricing. I've made it my business to do that. But you will find out that I know for sure that we are extremely competitive. In fact, there has been people, maybe myself included, that have said that it's probably too inexpensive and it deserves to have a cost increase. But no one listens to me, thankfully, for everyone on this call. So we can get pricing over to you. That's one of the easier things that we can do. Won't be a problem.
And also, Stephen, I just put out some differences around that Retain. Just fundamentally, some of the difference we have is that Retain provides a cloud and on-prem options. Retain provides archiving of social media and mobile added to email coming from multiple platforms. End user experience very familiar, easy trainable and intuitive, as you have proven with your presentation. Search of information provides auto-suggest and highlighted search, which is exactly what you just did on the search tab. And we'll provide, and I commented that we will provide a more comprehensive detail on a document that will be delivered after this session. So we can put this all in black and white, so for our attendees to receive it.
Fabulous. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if the next one is a question or a statement. It says migration utility not working on Retain 4.9, importing user archive to Retain.
So I think you're talking about the PST import tool. If you're talking about importing mailboxes, so we do ship a PST import tool that allows you to take PST files and import them into the archive. So if you go ahead.
Stephen, I already know how to fix that issue. I think the bundled one that you download from the interface, I know for a fact it does not work 100%. I have a version of it that actually works 100% correctly. In terms of, because I got one from the backend engineers.
Yeah. So it sounds like that there's a known issue and they're fixing it, but right now you have the field test fixed. So apologies for that. Of course, The good news is that, like every software company, we have great engineers and great support centers to help you with that. And of course, our partner infrastructure is very strong with their ability to support as well, which is you can't put a price on that. It's invaluable to have partners such as yourselves.
Oh, right then. And then we have another one saying that I understand the storage in email, specifically in GroupWise, but I cannot only imagine in WhatsApp, for instance, all the videos and photos, etc., must get a high capacity on storage.
Yeah, of course, videos tend to use up a lot of storage, but the deduplication and videos are already very compressed, so you can't really save too much by compressing them further. But the deduplication of videos is very strong. So normally you don't send a video just to yourself. There are multiple people that are on and receive that video. So worst case scenario, you send a video across to like the entire department. Retain's only going to have one copy of that video. I'm sure that we have chocolate and whiskey videos going around this morning, but Retain's only going to store one copy of that video. But in the interface of Retain, you can easily decide, and I didn't show you this because I could talk for hours about Retain. You can say you can tell Retain do not archive video files, .mov files or .mp4 files, or skip those and don't archive them if you don't want to put them into storage. So it's very easy to just let those go.
Oh, right, fantastic. I'm quite sure that question.
Okay, there is one question from Thais the Bear saying, so to archive from social media, text, WhatsApp, a client needs to be installed on each mobile device. That's what he presumes.
I already sort of answered that. I'll be more clear about it. So for WhatsApp, the most important thing you need is you need the user's credentials. The users, for our social media governance, it's opt-in, okay? The users have to opt into it. So you can't just install and start archiving Facebook and Twitter. You need the credentials. There's an opt-in process, and it's automated, and and it has to be repeated every year automatically, for instance. For WhatsApp, because there's a lot of questions around WhatsApp, there's a web interface of WhatsApp that is maybe not used so much these days, but it exists. Our social media governance tool, which is actually a cloud service that you subscribe to, and it will archive and send, it grabs the data and sends it to your Retain server. It will log into WhatsApp's web servers, authenticate as the end user because they've opted in and they've given permissions to do that, read all the messages, and archive all the data. You don't need anything on the phones. It doesn't have to do with the phone. The phone can be turned off. And this tool will log in, and it logs in every minute to do that, and it gets the data off the web interface.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
Also, just to take that one step further and maybe flip it on its back, 100%, Stephen. Thank you for that. So there you go, Taste. No client needed whatsoever. However, there is a Retain app in the Google App Store that can be downloaded, or the Apple App Store, or whatever, to access your archives, just like you would on your PC. So there's an app available as well, just FYI.
Yep. So very, very important. We do have that app. It's freely available. And there's also another app in the App Store, in the Google Play Store, called Retain Service. This app you can install on end user phones that are corporate issued phones that are owned by the company, and it can read and archive their text messages off of Android devices. Lots of different ways to get at end user data. We have our very flexible tools, lots of solutions. You might just want to archive email today, but in 3 years you might want to archive mobile. You don't know now, but you will in later. It's important to know that Retain future-proofs you in that way. Archiving with Microsoft 365, for instance, that you're never going to be able to archive Facebook or WhatsApp or mobile messages there. You're going to wind up with another archiving system. You're going to have two if you need to archive social or mobile later. So it's good to start at the ground floor with a future-proof tool.
Oh, all right, fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Stephen. On my side, doesn't look like there's any other questions that needed to be answered. I'm not sure if Quilbus has anything to say, or Javier.
No, I'm very pleased that we had the chance to present. Thank you for the invitation to do that. Stephen, many thanks for another brilliant presentation, and I look forward to discussing in person or remotely to every one of you. Might you have any queries or any requirement of information or anything, I will be more than happy to get back to you. Thank you very much. Have a very nice day.
All right. Thank you very much, Javier. Once again, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us today. I do know that it was not an easy process, and I'd appreciate your time to come to even more of our webinars that we do host on a weekly basis at NetCB. This video will be made available on our social media platform, and feel free to go check it out. All right. I think that's it from here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.